Today's topic is an important one. What's the difference between moratorium and full medical underwriting? The truth is, they're simply two different ways an insurer assesses your medical history before offering cover. Neither option is automatically better than the other. It depends entirely on your circumstances and your medical history. Let's break it down in plain English. First, let's start with moratorium underwriting, often shortened to a MORI. This is the most common option people choose because it's quick and straightforward, with no paperwork or forms to fill in. Some insurers may ask a risk filter question for major issues like any heart problems, strokes, cancers, or diabetes in the last 5 years, or if you have used any tobacco products in the previous 12 months, or if you are a smoker. At that point, we would be able to give you an indication of pricing. Some insurers will apply a medical loading, which means they charge a bit more if answering yes to any of those questions. Other insurers don't. The moratoriums work simply by covering you for any new conditions, symptoms, illnesses, or injuries from day one of your policy. It excludes any pre-existing symptom or condition from the 5 years before you joined. Once your cover has been in place for a 2-year period and you have had no further treatment, advice, symptoms, or medication, that pre-existing condition could be eligible for cover. Of course, it would need to be confirmed by your GP, but not all bad news like pet insurance, which is typically excluded permanently. Any issues outside of that 5-year window, they would look to cover from day one on the basis that there is no evidence of any treatment advice or medication in that 5-year period. The MORI is a great option for conditions like joint replacements before joining, as the likelihood of you going the 2-year trouble-free period is more than achievable, and should you need any revision in the future, that would likely be covered down the line. The insurance isn't there to help with ongoing medical conditions like blood pressure, diabetes, IBS and asthma, because if you are being monitored for that condition before joining, you would never meet the moratorium terms of going 2 years trouble-free. Trouble-free means free from treatment, advice, medication, or symptoms. However, AXA, for example, only require you to go treatment, advice, or medication-free, but you can still have symptoms. Many other providers will want you to go symptom-free too. The good news is that if your cover is in place and you are experiencing symptoms of an ongoing medical condition, like diabetes, blood pressure, what we call chronic conditions, your policy would be able to get you diagnosed for that condition. However, once diagnosed, there isn't much the policy can do for it. You will then just need monitoring or medication to manage that problem. The insurance is primarily for acute medical conditions that can be cured by treatment or surgery, not for ongoing lifelong conditions. The MORI is ideal for young families, couples, or individuals with a clear 5-year history. I would always recommend when I speak to a young couple or family that if the cover is right and doing what you need it to at the point of which you need it, and it's comfortable monthly for them, then get the cover in place as soon as possible. What sometimes happens is that they leave it, and then often I will speak to them a few months later, and they want to take the cover because something cropped up, and now they are waiting for months for diagnosis. Don't let that be you. Yes, we all have a lot of monthly outgoings, but this for me is one of the most important direct debits to have. As a young person, we can offer full cover for typically less than a fancy new mobile phone contract. Now let's compare that with full medical underwriting, or FMU. With full medical underwriting, you'll complete a detailed medical questionnaire before the policy begins. You'll tell the insurer about your medical history, previous conditions, medication, investigations, and ongoing treatment. The insurer then reviews everything before your policy starts and confirms exactly what is covered and exactly what is excluded. The biggest advantage of full medical underwriting is certainty. You know from day one where you stand rather than waiting until you need to make a claim. Often I will recommend we look at FMU for a client of a much older demographic with this type of underwriting, especially if their medical history is quite complicated or colourful, let's say. Now, this is where many people think the decision ends, moratorium or full medical underwriting. But it doesn't. And this is where independent advice becomes really valuable. Not all insurers apply underwriting in exactly the same way. Some insurers use what's known as a related moratorium. Others use a specified moratorium. Let me give you an example. Imagine you've previously had osteoarthritis in your left knee. One insurer may specifically exclude that left knee. If several years later you develop osteoarthritis in your right knee, they may treat that as a completely separate condition. Another insurer may apply a related exclusion. Because it's osteoarthritis, they may consider the right knee to be related to the original condition and exclude that as well. The underwriting method might be called moratorium with both insurers, but how they interpret your medical history could be very different. That's why it's so important not to choose a policy based purely on price. Understanding how different insurers approach underwriting can make a significant difference if you ever need to make a claim. As a broker, that's one of the things I help clients understand before they buy a policy. One final thing. If you already have private health insurance and you're thinking about switching insurers, don't worry. There's actually a third underwriting method called Continued Personal Medical Exclusions, often referred to as CPME. It works differently again and allows many people to switch insurers without starting their underwriting all over again. It's an important subject, so I'll explain exactly how that works in a separate video. None of us expects to need private health insurance. Until one day, we do. I'm Aaron from Elevate Health Solutions, helping people make informed decisions about their healthcare. If you would like to see how much it would be to get covered head, then get in touch.